Okay.
You good now?
Okay. Awesome. Good morning.
Morning.
The way I have this class structured is that we'll read a verse or two or three or however many verses I put down and try not to hit the podium, and we'll discuss it. I want it to be, I don't like doing classes where I'm just up here lecturing. That is boring to me. I guess it would be boring to you. I would love to have conversation. The way I have my mentality goes is that I'm not the smartest man in the world. I have studied the subject, but there's a lot of people a lot smarter than me that know a lot more than me. So I want y'all's input on certain things. I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of homework. I want to know, what have y'all been studying so far? I know, but I want to know if y'all have been paying attention. So far, what has this gospel meeting been about? Unity. What was y'all's first sermon on? God in Israel. All right. What was the second one on? God in the New Testament church. So I'm guessing, Solomon, your sermon is on God and everyone. I'm going to do a little bit of recap. I wanted to go a little deeper into commandments of our unity as a church, but I want to discuss it. All right. Start off in Acts 2. Acts chapter 2, starting in verse 42. If I can get somebody to read that. Acts chapter 2 and verse 42. 42 through 47, if you don't mind.
And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and the breaking of bread and the prayer. The fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common, sold their possessions and goods, and divided them among all, as anyone had need. So continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having favor with all people. And the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved.
All right. So let's just back up a little bit in time from this point. What had just happened?
Peter had his sermon.
Peter had his sermon. They started speaking in languages they didn't learn. This awesome thing happened. They were preaching. He was doing the best thing that he knew how to do. They baptized a bunch of people, and the church had been started. This is where that unity started. So what does it seem to us that they were doing here? What is their unity? What is their fellowship? What were they doing as soon as they got to the church or got into that unity, that church idea? They ate. All right. What else does it say? They praised God. Yeah.
Continued steadfast in the apostles' doctrine.
They continued steadfast in the apostles' doctrine. So just with those three things, I'm sure there's several more. What are we seeing? What were they constantly doing? Fellowshipping. They were together. Now, were they together just as a congregation? No. What is the church? The people. And we'll study that a little later. What do we notice about their approach to this fellowship? What's something that we see that might be a little different from what we do today?
Well, they were having all things in common, and they were actually caring for one another.
Yep.
They were trying to see what other people needed, and they were trying to provide it.
All right. Yeah, exactly.
I also think too, it's kind of how, easy it is, to have a Bible on your phone, and with cars, you can go and get food by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When back then, they kind of had to be around people to get food.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier to just do that stuff alone, and it's more tempting to do it by yourself rather than going and fellowshipping with people to do it.
Everybody hear what Jeep said? Or James, sorry. Everybody hear him? It's so easy nowadays to do everything by yourself. And back then, you had to be around other people. The way society is formatted, the way that it's supposed to be, in my opinion, is that everybody contributes. That's the way their society worked. And in this church, what was everybody doing? Contributing. There were no loose ends. There was no, shackles that were cracked. They were all strong links of the chain.
They couldn't survive without each other.
Couldn't survive without each other.
Last night in James's sermon, he referred to the Romans and how they were able to protect one another. The soldiers could protect one another with the shields, and how also he used the analogy of football, and how the quarterback does one thing, how the halfback does another, all in unison, all work together. And I know a lot of times people ask me about the Godhead.
Yeah.
How can that be? How can God be in three different people? Well, it's the same way. How is America put together? E pluribus unum on our coin say, out of the many are the one. And what is the purpose of the one? To work together. During World War II, the Marines adopted a slogan, gun ho. It didn't mean charge and run out there and get yourself killed or kill somebody. It was from the Chinese. It simply meant work together.
Yeah.
And that's what they were doing. They were working together.
We can take that sports analogy. I'm not much of a football guy, but I'm a basketball guy. I don't know if anybody here knows much about basketball, but you got 5 guys on each side. If you have one guy with the ball, he never passes the ball. He never does anything with the ball but throw up a wild shot. What's going to be the end result of that game? They're going to lose. The other team's going to win. Why?
Because they're not working together.
They're not working together. Selfishness. That's a very big thing. That's something that we're going to read into a little bit later in other verses.
Well, back at these times too, even when they say like breaking bread and fellowship.
Yep.
A lot of the times they were all growing something that the others would need too and sharing. So they literally couldn't survive without each other.
Yep. The way I grew up, the way that we always had a garden. Every year we had a garden. We grew turnip greens, we grew peas, corn, okra, whatever we could grow. We had excess. So what we would do is you tell everybody, and they'd all come with their little Walmart sack, and they'd come and pick whatever, or we'd pick it and bring it to them. We didn't need, 100-gallon containers worth of turnip greens because we had it. We had a bunch of turnip greens. But we're going to give them out because some folks need it a little more. Food got expensive. If you can grow it, if you can give it, that's something big that we can do as a church together, be together to help each other. Something interesting I want to hit on real quick is verse 46. So continuing, what's that word right there? Daily, with one accord in the temple. Daily. Someone break that down for me real quick. What do we see in that word daily?
Something they did every day.
Something they did every day.
What version are you reading?
New King James. What does yours say?
Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts.
I like that.
It's even better.
That's even better. Not just daily. Every day it puts stress. It puts what I believe, I haven't read the Greek, but I'm sure right there in that word right there, the stress is put on the word daily. Every day. How often do we do something every day? We can count it real quick. Let's count. What things do we do every day? Brush your teeth, I hope. Take a shower, I hope. Wake up. We wake up. We hope. We wake up, we what? Eat. We get our day started. Some other things. Folks go to work. As for us, we go to school, do our schoolwork. Those are things that we do daily. Something that we prioritize is something that we do daily. What did they prioritize? Fellowship. Being united. Later on in that verse, what does it say? After they were done breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart. What does that mean?
They didn't make a big affair out of it.
They make a big affair about it. It wasn't something that they were burdened to do, right?
Enjoyed it.
They enjoyed it.
You know, later on, when Paul scolded the folks for eating the Lord's Supper, and said, you know, if you're hungry, you got houses to eat in.
Yes.
All right. They had reached a point where that was not fellowship.
Yep.
That was greed.
Mm-hmm.
That was trying to get ahead of everybody, and that was they were trying to make a common meal out of
Yep.
it. So here we actually see the pureness of the church.
Mm-hmm. Yes. When we come from a little country church, and every once in a while we'll have a meal. We'll have our fifth Sunday meal, and I was told way back in the day when there was a lot more people in the church, when you'd say you'd have a meal, there'd be folks that show up just for the meal. So they'd sit with service, but in their front pocket right there, there'd be a fork waiting on that meal. Same thing that's happening there.
You know, the pattern in the first century church was that every time they came together, they had a meal together.
Yeah.
That's what Jude's talking about when he talks about the false teachers being spots in your love feasts.
Uh-huh.
You know, what we call fellowship meals, they call it love feasts.
I mean, yeah. And we'll find little key words that say love in later passages that we'll read.
And that fellowship part of this is important because as soon as you stop,
Mm-hmm.
then the connection to those people stops.
Uh-huh.
Well, you stop knowing what's going on in their everyday lives.
Yep.
You're not talking to them.
We're commanded
They
to.
begin think that you don't care.
Yep.
And then you'll get to thinking that they don't care about you, and then it's just going to everybody gets separate.
Yep. What's something that we're commanded to do for one another? Love. It's not what I'm looking for, but yes.
Bear each other's burdens.
Bear each other's burdens. How am I supposed to bear your burden? How am I supposed to help you? I don't know you're going through anything. Is anything else that we're seeing in this? Saw you had something to say.
You know, when I was growing up, quite often you would actually meet your mate, or your future intended, by going to church. That doesn't happen today.
No.
And divorce is just rampant. But you look back at people that grew up within the church, met their mate in the church. They're married until they die.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
But that's not the world we live in today. The world we live in today is not the one that I grew up in.
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot since I was much younger. I'm only 19, but I've seen the changes. Big time.
Well, I just turned 80 this year, so there's been a lot.
Is anything else in this verse before we move on? Anything? Any key points? Anything I might have missed?
Well, it looks like to me that this is just called family.
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 That's it.
You treat them just like, or better than you would family.
Yeah. There's a song. Is it a newer song? You're my brother, you're my sister. So take me by the hand. Together we'll. You don't know that song? Am I the only one that knows that song? Okay. It's a church song, I think. I may have just made that totally up right here. Yeah. So nothing else in this verse before we move on? With these verses?
I think the family aspect is very important too. The doctrine that Christ taught is one that we stick by. When you look at the same doctrine of family in Ephesians, chapter 1, where it talks about the predestination, not predestination, but like the adoption that we all have in Christ when we're baptized. That makes us all a family when we're all connected by that.
And that goes back a little bit to Roman culture. Roman culture, if you were adopted, you were in the family. Like you got the same perks as everybody who was blood kin to you, or was blood kin to them. That's the way it worked.
I don't know of one church that meets like that still. Whitman, Mississippi, they eat every Sunday after church at somebody's house or after church.
Yep.
And they do seem more united.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally in each other's house
Yeah.
every Sunday.
And that's
Not
how
every
they
day,
worshiped.
but that's the only one I know of now.
Yep.
That does that.
I think there's one more thing that we might say about this, and that is where, in 47, where it says, praising God, having favor with all the people.
Yeah.
It's not talking about the world at this point.
Yeah.
But having favor with all the people, and of course this, and then of course the last order, the Lord ordered, the Lord added to the church daily those that were being saved. But they were praising God together.
Yes.
So, that was the unity. That was what tied them all together.
Yes. Exactly. John chapter 17, starting in verse 20 to 26, if I can get somebody to read that. John 17, 20 to 26. So I'm going to let somebody else read.
I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they all may be one, as you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me. And the glory. Keep going.
Yes, do 26, please. To the end of this chapter.
And the glory which you gave me, I have given them, that they may be one, just as we are one. I in them, and you in me, that they may be made perfect in one, and that the world may know that you have sent me, and have loved them as you have loved me. Father, I desire that they also, whom you gave me, may be with me where I am, that they may behold my glory which you have given me. For you loved me before the foundation of the world. O righteous Father, the world has not known you, but I have known you, and these have known that you sent me. And I have declared to them your name, and will declare, that the love with which you love me may be in them, and I in you.
So there's a lot in this. It's kind of a lengthy passage. But from that, what are some key things that y'all see, that y'all remember from the reading? Something that stuck out.
The object of worship.
Object of worship. And what is that? God.
The source of unity is very clear there. It's
Yes.
the apostles' doctrine.
Yep.
That they all may be one.
Yes.
He says, I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word.
Yeah.
So that's where the
Yep.
unity is, in God's word.
Yes. Blessed be those who have not seen, but yet believed. What is this right here? What is this passage? It's not just a verse, but what is it?
A prayer.
It's a prayer. So Jesus is praying for this. This isn't just something that he's preaching. It's not something that he's just doing. He's praying for not just the upcoming church, the church that'll be soon, not just the apostles, but for all who through the doctrine of the apostles, being you have your gospels, you have your general epistles, you have Acts, you have your history books, all of this, who believe through this that Jesus is who he says he was and continues to reign. What else do we see in this? What significance do we see in verses 21 to 22?
One of the things that I always, every time I read this passage, just is awe-inspiring, is that if I'm the kind of person that this is talking about, that believes on Christ through the inspired word, and I'm unified with those that believe on Christ through this inspired word, then Jesus was praying for me right there.
Yeah.
The Son of God was praying for me specifically, if I'm that kind of person.
Yes. Yes. Verses 21 and 22 sticks well with our unity, that they may all be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me. And the glory which you gave me, I have given them, that they may be one just as we are one. What is being stressed right there?
Our unity is a testimony as well.
Yes.
The unity that we have in the church and how much we love each other and bear each other's burdens. The world sees that. And we are a lot of people's first example of Christ. We're a lot of people's Bibles. And so by us keeping unity among each other, that can testify to how strong our faith is and how true it actually is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He uses the word one and us in there a lot. Us referring, of course, to the Godhead. But he also uses one, as in just that unity principle that we keep talking about. When he says that they all may be one, he's talking to us, right? Talking about us. He stresses that. Through this verse, through this prayer, I want to stress prayer. He stresses this, that they may be one, that they may be unified. What happens when someone's not unified with another? Discourse, right? They're not on the same page.
They are divided.
Divided.
You know, the denominations out there, it finally dawned on me one day that it was mathematical. A denomination is a fraction. You got a denominator and a numerator.
Yep.
And through the years, that's what's happened to the church.
Yep.
It became divided, and then like cells, it divided again,
Yep.
divided again. And a few years ago, I did a lesson in here where I'd done some research. At that particular time, what I had found, it said there were 45,000
Yep.
different beliefs in the world when it comes to God.
Yep.
45,000. And yet on the day of Pentecost, how many churches did Jesus establish? One.
I was in a class, well, actually it was we call them breakout chapels at Faulkner. But we have our large chapels, the ones that everybody's in. And then we have more personal chapels where, you break up and you have maybe 30 in a class. Something more like this, where there's discussion. On the first day, it was brought up by the teacher. He said, "Are Christians atheists? Are Christians atheists?" Logically, we think, no, Christians are not atheists. How, far-fetched do you have to be to think that Christians are atheists? Well, what did the Romans think Christians were?
Cannibals.
Cannibals, for one. Romans and people back in, ancient days thought Christians were atheists. Because why?
They believed in, they were,
Polytheism.
yeah,
They believed in multiple gods. Well, Christians only believed in one God. So by Christians discounting all of their other gods, the Roman gods, saying that there's only one God, and saying that your gods don't exist, to them, we were atheists. That made us different, yes.
Was it also Romans when Paul said you worship an unknown God?
Yes. Well, Greeks, yes. Yep, near the end of Acts, and I can't remember where it is right now. But yes, the Romans were so delved deep into to gods, and they were so worried to death that there was one God that they had not worshipped, or they didn't have an altar for, and they were going to punish them for that that they set up an altar that was just like just in case, like a safe fail. In case we don't have you just yet, here's a little altar to the unknown God. Acts 17.
And Paul says unknown.
Athens, is that where it was? Yep.
And then Paul says the unknown God is
Yep.
the right God.
Yep.
That was at Mars Hill, and we used to have a member here that actually visited over there.
Mhm.
He said that, just led up to a temple.
Yep, the
And
Parthenon.
But what was interesting, whenever I looked up about Athens at that time, there were about 3,000 people living there.
Mm-hmm.
They had 10,000 gods.
Yes.
That's the reason that they had to put this one to the unknown God. They'd run out of room to put the other gods. So.
Yep. Real quick, we're starting to run a bit out of time. You said 1:15, correct? Or
1:15?
no, I'm sorry, 10:15. I rounded. My bad. 10:15, right? 10:15. All right, so let's move on. I'm not Paul. I can't do that. Ephesians chapter 4. Quickly, let's turn there. Verses 11 to 16. I'll read that one for the sake of time. And he himself gave some to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors and teachers, for the equipping of the saints, for the work of ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, till we all come to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, that we should no longer be children, tossed to and fro and carried with every wind of doctrine by the trickery of men, in the cunning craftiness of deceitful plotting, but in the truth, in love, may grow up in all, but speaking the truth in love, may grow up in all things into him who is the head, Christ, from whom the whole body joined and knit together by what every joint supplies, according to the effective working by which every part does its share, causing the growth of the body for the edifying of itself in love. So what do we see there? For one, I'm seeing that very clearly Christ is the head of the body, and we, the body. So Christ is the head of the church. But he doesn't, so in our days, in our times, the church is the what? What is the consensus on what the church is? I'm looking for something a little more. What does the world think the church is?
It's the building.
It's the building. They think the church is the building. They think that when you go to church, you're going to that little white church over there on the end of the road, and you're going to sit in there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you're going to sing a couple songs, you're going to listen to a man speak for a minute, and you're going to go home, right? That's church to the world, right? Is that what the church is? No. The church is the assembly of people. Yes. Where were people assembling back in ancient, let's put it this way. If there's a church somewhere in a rural area and you don't have the materials to make a church, where would they have worshiped? Somebody's house?
Somebody's barn.
Somebody's barn, by a lake, by a creek, by under a tree.
On a mountain.
On a mountain. I know that in, what's up? Together. They would have worshiped together. And that was the church. I remember being in Florence, Alabama, had a preaching camp, and we went to a church to worship, and they were talking about the history of Florence in that area. And they were talking about how all these churches of Christ got established, and the way it happened was it VP Black? VP Black had gone there, and he had started teaching and started making ministers and making preachers. And there just wasn't enough room in one church for them, so they spread out. And one went over here with his congregation. They was under a tree over here. They built a building. And one went way over here to this side of this hill. And one went down south. One went up north. One east. One west. They made churches everywhere. But were they separate churches? They were one people.
Just why we call other congregations sister congregations.
Sister congregations.
Or one family.
One family. Something that I'm not big on is when and it happens in Montgomery, especially at Faulkner. You have certain people who believe that their, little church, being a church of Christ, let's make that clear, being a church of Christ, believing the same things, is their church, the right church. So you have your areas, you have Vaughn Park, and you have Dalreda, and you have University. You have some people that will only go to University. You have some people that only go to Dalreda, some people that only go to Vaughn Park. And it doesn't make any sense to me at all. They won't go to Dalreda if there's a gospel meeting. They won't go to Vaughn Park if there's a meeting. It makes zero sense to me at all that they believe what you believe. They're preaching the same things you're preaching. They're under the same body. Christ is their head of the church. Christ is your head of the church. So why is it that you can't walk into their building? And I think that's exactly it. They're not looking at me and you. They're not looking at me and you. They're looking at the building. They're looking at the church building. They're not seeing the people, the brotherhood, the fellowship. What's something that's been stressed? We're right here at the end of this verse in Ephesians. What is that last word? Love. What is something we are lacking in the church today? Love.
The true expression of love.
The true expression of love. What is love? What's a couple descriptions of love?
Well, agape love, which he's talking about here, is a love of the will. You love because you decide to.
Yes.
It's not emotional affection.
Yep.
Even though that's involved.
Yep.
Or, the other forms of love. It's you have chosen this love. Right? Like we make the choice that we're going to follow Christ. We're going to love him. That's
Yep.
agape love.
Yes.
And in doing that, we're choosing to love the brotherhood. That's agape. It's so, a lot of times we have these, squabbles, and I think the cure to a lot of those things, and especially this, like what you were talking about, church building religion, that wouldn't have made any sense in the first century church.
Nope.
This kind of church building religion, and so when we have these squabbles, we're kind of losing focus on what's really important, and that's we're family. And
Yes.
we have made the conscious choice, the willing choice, that this is my love.
Yep.
This is what I love. And so it's not about the church building or whether, you decide to have your fellowship meals this way or whether you decide to have your fellowship meals that way. It shouldn't matter. Those are not matters of the apostles' doctrine. And we can be unified in our love for Christ, and our love for the apostles' doctrine, and our love for the church. And those other things, if an autonomous congregation decides to do something one way, as long as it's within the pattern of the apostles' doctrine, we should have the love for them to respect their decision, right, as an autonomous congregation, and to be able to enjoy that fellowship in Christ, which is the priority.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that we have as our traditions that sometimes get conflated with doctrine, like the way that we serve the Lord's Supper, the way that we do our benevolence work, and the way that we enjoy our fellowship activities. Those are all matters of, cultural tradition, not doctrine.
Not doctrine.
The doctrine is that we're supposed to fellowship.
Yes.
The doctrine is that we're be one in Christ. The doctrine is the pattern of worship. The plan of salvation. These things, the work of the church, these are points of doctrine. But in our coming to be accustomed to certain traditions, like having the furniture up front the way that it is, that's or the invitation song at the end of the sermon, those are matters purely of cultural tradition.
Yeah, you're not going to find that in the book. You're not,
If a congregation decides to do it a different way,
yes.
and we say, oh, well, we can't have fellowship with you because you don't do it like that, well, that's where we're going wrong.
Yep.
I also think we don't give the word agape love the credit. We assume, well, that's God's love, so he can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we put more emphasis on the love we have for our family and friends
Mhm.
than we do that agape love we should have for the congregation.
I'm grateful to the Greeks for specifying so many different kinds
Yes.
of love.
Yes.
And the love that we're hearing here is agape love.
Mhm.
It's not phileo love or
Yes.
eros
Eros.
or these other loves, the brotherly love, and the love that a husband and wife have with one another.
Be kind of weird if that was the case, wouldn't it?
Right, or the word that, I love ice cream, or I love
Yes.
chocolate cake.
Yeah.
We use the word rather loosely,
Yes.
and, but when the Greeks talked about love, they were talking about specific types of love. And when it comes to agape, what does that even intend? That goes to the point of dying for someone else. And who's willing to die for me, by the way? Anybody volunteer? Everybody volunteering today, great. So, that's the thing about a Christian. I remember the story about the young, I think he was supposedly a Vietnam child, and his sister was wounded or something. I heard this story years ago at a Bible camp, and I don't know whether it's even true, but the story was really sweet. The little boy didn't understand English too well, but they told him, your sister needs a transfusion. And he said, what is a transfusion? And it says, we need to take your blood and put it into her so that she can live. And the little boy started to cry. And, but he was willing to go up and let them take his blood. And they asked him, why are you crying? And he says, well, I didn't want to die. He thought that they were going to take all of his blood and give to the sister, but he was willing to do it. That's agape love.
And it takes courage.
It does.
And two, that uncomfortable love that you're about to fall off the cliff and you're getting off the road and somebody needs to knock you back into the center because you're messing up, and on the other side of that, being the one that's taking it. Being willing to hear what somebody says and you say, wow, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And I got to straighten this up, instead of being angry and they loved you enough to tell you, and now you got to love them enough to take it and not be get out of shape about it.
And if you're a parent, you need to realize that agape love is also tough love.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to be maybe a little mean to get it across that I really love my children. Because there's rebellion sometimes.
I think that's one of the important points about this passage in Ephesians is that when it refers to speaking the truth in love, that's talking about the motive for speaking the truth, not the mode. So many times people have the idea that, well, that means you're supposed to be very sweet and, tender and all these things in the way that you talk to people. But that's not what that's saying. That's saying that you tell people the truth because you love them. It's the motive for telling the truth. Because you go and read Matthew chapter 23, when Jesus repeatedly calls them blind guides, hypocrites, fools. Well, was Jesus speaking the truth in love? Yeah, of course. I mean, he's our example for speaking the truth in love. So it's like Steve said, sometimes speaking the truth in love means telling people hard truth that they don't want to hear. And you're willing to do that because you love them.
And you see what everyone's talking about, they're talking about these different acts of love. Like love is a doing word. Love is a word of
action.
Mhm.
And, I appreciate you so much for addressing the elephant in the church, which is the fellowship is such a lost art.
Mhm.
I mean, back in the day when the church started, they fellowship
Yes.
daily. They were of one accord. They all like believed in the same thing as you were discussing, and they spent time with each other daily. But now we just come, we meet each other, we shake a couple of hands, we
Yeah.
go on with our lives, and we pretty much forget about each other for the most part. And like people, it's like the way the church is these days, you have your different groups, I mean, like, you don't want to intermingle, you don't want to come together as one. It's kind of like reminds me of high school type of deal, but I mean, like, it's such a lost art, and I agree with you so much that like that is like the crux of why the church isn't growing, along with people being like modern day Solomons, no pun intended, but in other words, going like having like 700 strange women, all outside of the apostles' doctrine, and that's why all these people drift away from the church and it's shattered. But again, I appreciate you so much for addressing that.
That's right.
Oh, I was gonna say, with the church coming together daily, back then, fellowshipping, doing many things, that could include a myriad of activities with the church fellowshipping. But the point about when you love someone, you tell them the truth.
Yes.
I like that point. That's a problem today with the way that we accept when someone tells us the truth. When I was back in my day, if one of my parents told me something, I may not have liked it, but I didn't get all bent out of shape about it. I may not have understood it, but I knew it was for my own good. And I took whatever criticism that I could take out of it to make myself a better person. And a lot of people these days, they have a hard time doing that. You could tell them something that's right because you love them, and then they get angry at you being the messenger of what is the truth instead of retrospect or introspect, looking at themselves and saying, well, maybe this has some truth to it. Maybe there's something I can change within myself.